All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at absolute value inequalities, and we're solving. Here, use the pen. Here, use the pen. Sit down. Why are you playing with that right now?
Do you guys remember doing absolute value before earlier in the year?
No. We just did yesterday.
Yeah, no.
Okay, well yesterday too. You know how you have to have it can come out both positive and a negative can be in there, right? So now we're just gonna have two different types of inequalities. One has to be positive, one has to be negative. We'll show you how to do it.
Okay. If you've got x is less than the answer, you know it's an and, so you're gonna have two arrows pointing towards each other. If it's x is greater than the answer, it's gonna be an or. It's gonna be pointing away from each other. So we're going to go through, we're going to try example 1a. You've got the absolute value of x is greater than 5.
So you have to rewrite it two ways. Okay? Yep. So one way to write it, if this was positive, we just carry it down and go x. I already oriented it. So there are two different ways to write it. X is greater than 5, and then you have to make it negative. X is less than, you're going to flip it and make it negative 5.
Hit the red button. Not with a pen.
All right, so x is greater than 5. We have to write it the other way. Or x is less than negative 5. Because remember, we can have a positive number be in here and a negative number be in here.
And now you have to do what? Graph. So you draw a number line. You have a negative 5 and a 5. And just follow what way the arrow is pointing.
X is less than negative 5. Less goes to the what?
The left.
X is greater than 5. Open circle, right?
To the right.
It's an and or? Or, because they're going separate ways. Yes?
What is that?
What?
It's an arrow.
X is, what are you talking about?
Oh, I see.
It's an open circle.
Over what?
Negative 5.
Oh.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's slow. I don't know.
Okay, let's look at the next one. Let's try that one on our own. The absolute value of x is less than 1.
So you write it out. That you can write it out without the absolute value sign in a positive way. Just simply copy it down. And then when you change it to a negative, you have to also flip the sign. So it goes this way, and now goes this way, and we added a negative. Okay? Go, write it down.
Stop with the chair. Put all 4 feet on the floor.
Did you figure it out?
What is it?
Okay, so let's look at this. We have two ways to write it. We have, let me erase this. So, let's write it just like
Did you raise
this.
your hand?
X,
Then stop.
X is less than 1. What is wrong with this thing?
It's recording.
X is less than 1. Now we have to write it to be negative 1, right? So I go X, flip the sign, negative 1. Okay? Now we just simply graph it. I've got 0, negative 1, and 1. Read this to me, Jordan. X is what then 1? X is less than 1. Is it open or closed circle? Open circle. Less than goes to the? Okay. Jesse, do this one. X is what then negative 1?
It's an open circle. Good.
Okay. What is it?
Is
Less
it
than
greater
or
than or less than?
what is it?
Oh, greater.
It's greater than. So is this an and or an or statement?
Both.
It's and because they're connected. Okay, so the big thing you're learning today is writing the inequalities two different ways. You write it just as it is, that's the positive way, and then you have to write it with a negative and flip the sign. So,
Let's move on to example 2a.
same thing. So we write it two different ways. So, Chloe, let's try you. Tell me the two different ways. What's the first way I need to write it? Do you remember? X minus 4 less than 3. And what's the other way? Greater than -3. She flipped the sign and made it negative. Perfect.
So the
Now-
big difference from yesterday, guys, we always had one answer positive, one answer negative, is we've got that inequality and you have to flip the sign. That's a big difference.
And make it negative. Okay, so how do we solve? What's the first thing we need to do? Add what? Add 4 to both sides. So I get x is less than 7, right?
Yep.
So obviously, if we do the same thing here, we got to do the same thing here. We have to add 4. Add 4. I get x is greater than what, Lisa? X is greater than 1. So if we graph it, I've got 0, 1, 7. My graph is off, but which way does my arrow go? Artie, read this for me. What does it say? X is what then 7? Right, less than 7. So less than, it's an open circle, and it goes to the left. Next one, X is what, Sam? Read this to me. X is what? Greater than 1. So what is this?
Got an open circle. Yeah. They're
It's
pointing
an
towards
and.
each other. Yes.
And.
Okay, please try part B right now. Remember, you've got to split it before you start solving.
So write it both ways. Write it the positive way, and then flip the sign and make it negative.
Yeah.
And then solve. Ready?
No, come on, we need this.
Shh, please stop talking.
Want me to tell you how to do this?
Okay, Josh, we're up to you. I wrote it this way. X plus 2 is less than 3, just like the original problem. What did you write for this side? X plus 2 is the -3, right? Good. Okay. So, Josh, what is my first step?
Subtract 2.
Good. Subtract 2. Do you always add or subtract first? And we end up with X. Writing down your sign is less than 1. Right?
Yeah.
Deja, what about this side? Well, we know we have to do -2, right? Tell me what my answer is. Excellent. Greater than -5. Now we have to graph it. So I've got 0, 1, -1, all the way up to -5. Open or close circle, Nathan. Okay, read this to me. X is what then 1?
X is less than 1.
Less than 1. So my arrows can go to the left. What does this say?
And X is greater than -5.
Greater. So they're pointing towards each other. What kind of statement is this? And. Okay, yes?
So when they're not connected.
Yes. When they're going separate ways, it's this or this. Okay?
Okay, let's move on to example 3 then. Do you got a question, Jesse?
Was 2A, was that like 4?
2A, was it pointing towards each other or away from each other when you graphed it?
Away or pointing? It's been and.
It was an or.
It was pointing.
Wow.
Here we go.
I didn't even write
Here's
that one down.
2A.
Example 2.
It is and. See? And.
I'm sorry.
Jesse, it's an and.
I love you, Kelly.
Write it down.
Here we go. Solve an absolute value inequality. Go for it.
Easy.
Write it 2 different ways. Solve it.
Please solve it.
Try example 3.
Want to check my paper? Want to check my paper? What other? What do you think this is? Can you? One problem, 2 problems. 2. That's 1.
Go. Rachel, how do I write the second part? Good. All right, we ready to solve this? Check it. So, Rachel, go ahead. Let's solve this. So, what do we have to do first?
We're gonna subtract 5.
Good. We always look to add or subtract. And I have x is what? Read that sign.
Yep.
What equals to?
You owe me $5. You've given me 2. How much do you owe me?
All right. So we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to minus 5 from both sides, just like we did on the other problem. Except for this time, what answer do I get, Matt? X is less than or equal to what? -2, -5 is? What kind of 7? -7. So we just have to graph it. And how do I do
Scroll
this?
down. I know it looks like you're scrolled down all the way, but you're not.
Okay.
I don't know what its issue is.
Whoa. Wouldn't there be an extended page on there?
Yeah, but it's not showing up. Here, Miss Kellerman, you can do it on a new page.
All right. Here we go. We're going to solve that one. So I get x. You did that, right?
We're doing example 3, so you should get x is greater than or equal to -3,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and
my
x
God.
is less than or equal to 7.
Or what?
X is less than or equal to -7. There should be an equal sign under your. There you go.
So I've got 0. All right, open or close circles, guys. Closed. Closed on -7. Delshawn, which way does my arrow go for -7? X is what then -7? What's that sign say? Here's how you tell. Is this the smaller part of the arrow right next to the X or the bigger part of the arrow? Is this the small part of the arrow or the bigger part? Small. So X is less than or equal to -7. So less than is left, right? And now X, this is the bigger part of the arrow. It's right next to the X. So X is greater than -3. So is this an and or? Or because they're going away from each other. Okay, I just need to set the next page right.
Yeah, let me do it. Or not.
All right. Here's a new thing that you need to know.
Turn your paper over.
Okay, this is a new thing.
We're on example 4.
Before we write out the 2 different ways and flip the sign, before we do that, there's something outside. If there's ever anything outside the absolute value sign, we got to get rid of that first before we write it both ways, positive and negative. So, how am I going to get rid of the -3? Add 3.